I'm sure you're aware of that, Dave Coldrick, and we said, look Dave, will you give us some bit of a clue as to what's going to happen out here? It's amazing. I just never cease to amaze that here you're training guys for a championship, and lo and behold, right before the off, there's a new version of the rules or a new interpretation, and the poor referees and the managers and the players are all expected to know. How daft can you get?
Yeah, interesting point from John, and we're going to come to that. But first, as a Cork man, Tony, your impressions of Kerry?
I thought Kerry were really good today. They're much farther along the line than they were this time last year. They look like they're certainly targeting Cork in the next game. They're really up and running well. If you look at their team, Mike Carty proves what I always thought, the training was overrated anyway in the first place. Came back at centre-back, he was magnificent today. Donal, full forward. He's a new player, he was out all last year. Gooch is like a spring lamb running around the place. Like Brian Sheehan is kicking frees for fun. So look, Kerry are well set up. Really well set up, and they really haven't gone away. They're there again this year, and they'll be very hard to beat.
All right. Now, one thing for people who are watching tonight who didn't see the live matches, you'll notice that after every match in the interviews, there's lots of complaints about the hand passes. And just to explain,
yeah, but I don't really think people appreciate how disruptive it was today in all the games, because it really spoiled all the games. And we're going to look at some of the incidents today from the Tipperary game, but after this we're going to look at it in more depth right across the whole ambit of the games that happened today. But first of all, today we're going to look at this is actually Tipperary's goal. Kerry attacking with the ball. Brian Sheehan has the ball, hand passes it out. David Coldrick blows it. Now we're going to look at it twice. First of all, we're going to look at it from Brian Coldrick's angle, and he closes his fist and punches it. So I don't think that was a free. Now, in fairness to David Coldrick, looking at it from this angle, I can see where his interpretation came from, but that's not the angle he had. Straight from this, tip come back, march up the field, and a fantastic finish.
Goal.
Great goal. Now, this is another one. Ball into Donaghy, as they were doing all day. He wins a great ball with his closed fist, punches it over, and Brian Sheehan gets a goal. I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever in this. I'd say if you watch it 40 times, you can see a closed fist punching the ball into Brian Sheehan. I can't see where the interpretation of the rule was there. I just can't see it. It looked like a closed fist goal.
All right.
Perfectly legal shot, punch.
Kerry, we've heard, without many of their big players from last year's final, and yet Kieran Donaghy back is such a plus. Yeah,
Donaghy's plus, but their attitude is good. They look like they're hungry, they look like they're fresh actually. You know, maybe it did suit them in the league just to do what they did in the league. But Gooch is just such a special player. It's impossible to mark him. It's like chasing shadows. But look at his work rate here. He passes the ball. He goes in straight away, cuts back out, makes the angle for his left leg and kicks it over the bar. Fantastic movement, fantastic hard work. And that's the one thing people don't realise about Gooch. If you put a camera on Gooch in any big game, he runs for miles, over and back, making space. And he just doesn't miss. And along with that, he wins so many valuable frees for them.
OK, let's get back to this other point, though, that we've heard. So many players and managers after the matches expressed disappointment and frustration over the interpretation of the hand pass. Let's hear some of the reaction from around the grounds today.
We had a referee in with us the other night, and he was saying that, you know, one kind of hand pass is grand and another kind isn't, but to us there was no difference in the both of them. But certainly it is a tough rule for the referees as well to be up to speed. But you know, so you have to, I suppose, feel kind of sorry for the referees.
But I think David Coldrick did a good job today. He actually explained to us beforehand what he was going to pull and what he wasn't. So I don't think it was a huge factor, but today. But somewhere down the line, there's going to be a critical call going against the team. There's going to be pandemonium, I think. So it just remains to be seen. I think the jury's still out.
I mean, in fairness to the referee, he refed according to the book now, and that's what's actually happening in our game. Up there in Croke Park, they're changing rules every other day, and what are they trying to do with our game? Trying to destroy it. In my time playing football, I can assure you, there wouldn't even have been one yellow card, never mind red ones, in that game that I saw today. That was a clean game of football. I mean, it was really hard and tough, but that's championship football, and that's what it's all about. I don't know where we're going with all these rule changes. It's crazy.
Anthony, respond to that.
Well, I think it's across the board today. It's not me sitting in the Sunday game with a grumpy head for coming from the north saying giving out about referees. This is across the board. Yeah. Everyone who was at a game today, or anyone who watched games on television, are of the one mind that is what has gone on in relation to the refereeing and officiation of Gaelic football over this weekend has not been acceptable. Within the rules, you're allowed to, the GA make provision that you can change the rules only once every 5 years. if you're allowed, if you know that, why are you waiting to the very, very, very last minute before you implement these rules? The change of interpretation in the hand pass has come about because of the failure of the closed fist pass, which was trialled in the National League. But at least there was a fair trial. When the rule was changed at Congress, you know, there was 7 or 8 new rules that didn't get through, but there was 7 or 8 other ones that got through, and there wasn't a word about it. It goes back to, suppose, the amount of business that's there in Congress. There's too much to be done on the weekend, 100 and whatever odd motions, not enough time given to the things that are very, very dear to us as players and players and managers and spectators. It's not good enough. It's not good enough that fellas should train for 6 or 8 or 9 months for the championship. Good enough that spectators come in to watch a game of football. You can hear the groans coming from the crowd every time players were blown up for what were legitimate. And the rule says an underhand hand pass. We had scores of those today that were blown up. A legitimate underhand hand pass is blown up, and it's not good enough.
It spoiled the game today, actually. And you know, when you look at it and the interpretation of the hand pass, it's just ridiculous. And is it those people that were up in the conference should decide it, or is it the players and the managers and those involved? Like, they're administrators in that. I know they're goodwill and they get the motions from the clubs.
Well, in fairness, they're representing the players.
But I don't think the players have any say in it, actually.
The communication process is not there with the players. You know, the players got a couple of weeks' notice, and with all due respect, they're training since January. You know, they're putting their lives on hold for their counties, and silly little decisions can cost them games. And to give them 2 weeks' notice or whatever notice they gave them is not good enough. And it's you can blame the refs to a certain degree, and it's unfair on them because they will pick up all the flack. You know, it's a hard enough game to referee. We don't have a defined tackle. And now we've got a hand pass rule that's very hard to interpret.
But it's quite clear. It's quite clear. It's quite clear in its definition. The definition is that if it's a clear underhand striking action, then that is allowed. And we had too many examples over the weekend where you had clear underhand striking actions. This is the sideline. This is another rule. You can't be inside the pitch when you're hitting the sideline. Now you look at that. Jeremy came 4 yards inside the pitch. Here today, Brendan Murphy, he's an inch inside the pitch. Linesman's 2 yards from him. Doesn't put up his flag. The referee, who's 30 yards away, it seems hell bent to come and enforce what is another rule.
And he brings it in 13 metres.
Well, that's actually, I don't mind. I think that's a good rule, taking that throwing away from the sideline and allowing. You know, we don't want Malays on the sideline, but this is the one that infuriates everyone who's watching and playing.
This spoiled the game
today.
There was 60 frees in this game today. Now, the average frees in last year's championship was 42.7. Maurice Deegan, in his 4 games last year, 45 frees he awarded. So this is a huge increase in the frees. Now, you can blame the players for some of it, but it wasn't the players today. It was the interpretation of the hand pass. And it spoiled all the games. It spoiled the viewing for everybody today.
You know, the ball isn't moving of its own accord in these situations. The ball is moving because it's been struck by a hand.
Well, kind of ball there, Kim. Just to illustrate now, it's kind of over-exaggerated, Ciaran. That's the illegal overhand pass.
Well, I think you can fist it any way you want, sideways or underhand, but it just has to be an underhand action.
Right, and it's. So what's not allowed then?
Well, what the GA are trying to do, they're trying to get rid of things like these sort of hand passes, those sort of hand passes, that sort of stuff. That's what they're trying to get rid of, and you can understand that. It's quite straightforward. An underhand hand pass is allowed, but today it was blowing up repeatedly.
Another thing that was blown today was for the short hand pass. They want an exaggerated movement of the hand, right? If you did that, they were blowing it. What is it? What is a hand pass? And there's no benefit of the doubt to the players. And some of the things we saw, the benefit of the doubt must go to the players. We want to speed the game up.
There's too much at risk. There's too much at stake here, Des. This has got to be nipped in the bud right now. We can't have a repeat of this next weekend. This has got to be sorted out during the week. Players need to be given clear direction on what is going to be allowed and what is going to be blown.
OK, but our sympathy to the refs on it, given the circumstances. What about man of the match nominees in this one, Tony?
Ciaran Donal.
Ciaran
Donal had a fantastic game at full forward. Gooch was brilliant as well, and we had Mike Mack at centre back. But
in the end, the decision went to
Ciaran, Colin Cooper and Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. And in the end, the consensus was Ciaran Donaghy was the man of the match. And I mean, you wondered in Kerry, they talked about the players they lost on the back of last year. Talked about Tommy Walsh going to Australia. How on earth were you going to cope with his loss? And then you have Ciaran Donaghy stepping up to the mark and showing us what we all know he's capable of. You mentioned, Tony, that Colin Cooper's impossible to mark. Well, I think Donaghy's even more so. I mean, he has it in the air, he has it when it comes to ground. Great vision, great hands, wonderful performance. Hunger is right up there where it should be.